Welcome to another edition of Life's Journey with Dr. Ralph Smith, and we're well into our second season here on PAPA, which is our home network with this Peninsula area, public access, and it's lovely that we can be able to do this in a studio that has been developed and established by PAPA. And of course, we want to welcome all of our viewers throughout Thurston County with Thurston County Community Television, and we're proud to be a member of that. And I know that Sean and I have to plan another trip down to Olympia and bring him some more shows. So we want to thank everybody that tuned in there. And yes, we do have a Jenny Marie Wellness Center that we're developing for the Thurston area. So as soon as we get that done, we'll answer that. But for those folks out there, and Lucy in the closing credits, if you need our help, just give us a call and we'll get someone down there to help you out. And of course, we're thrilled to death about our latest edition, which is thanks to Jess Smith, who is our company president. We're now in Southwest Idaho. And boy, we're in Southwest Idaho in a big way. We cover most of Southwest Idaho, including the Boise, Napa, Caldwell area. We're up in the mountains. We're up in Owyhee County. We're all over there. And Cable One now has brought an additional 100,000 households to our network. So right now, we've got 150,000 households that we access, let alone our worldwide audience. And we know a lot of you people go to our website, which of course is jennymwellness.com, and you simply click Life's Journey, and you can watch all of our shows from the very beginning. And we appreciate all those worldwide folks, and I especially get thrilled like when I was doing our radio shows, that when we used to get calls from all over the West United States. It just thrills me with the advance of technology, because we did our West Coast edition of the radio show, Northwest Live Tonight, and that covered the entire Western United States. But that was back in 1999 and 2000. And boy, has the technology improved since then. So that's why we switched to television. And community television and public access is really the new thing that is just going wild throughout the country. And we're honored to be part of that. And don't hesitate to send us an email or to communicate with us via our website. Well, let's talk about what we're doing in this episode. This episode's titled Final Journey. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this segment. And again, if you saw our voluntary life termination show, I really appreciate that. If we save one person out there who tunes in and watches the show, I'm going to consider that show a huge success. But now we're moving forward and we're talking about your final journey. And a lot of people get faced with this and it kind of rushes up on you without knowing, that it's right there. I'm getting ready to celebrate my 65th birthday. I even have trouble saying it. It makes me feel so old. But I'll be 65 on December 9th of this year, of 2018. And my gosh, what a wonderful and blessed life I've had, and a lot of wonderful things in life that I have been able to accomplish. But when you get to this age, or you face some type of either incurable disease, and I got 4 of them, so I know what I'm talking about in this, or a terminal disease, you start thinking about the issues. What am I going to do in my final life journey that I have with the time that the Lord's given me to be on this earth? And one of the big responsibilities, and what we're going to talk about today, is that you don't want to burden someone in the family, whether it be kids, a wife, mom or dad, if you happen to be blessed enough to have a mom and dad that's lived that long, if you're older like I am, and I'm not in that situation anymore, unfortunately. Mine have both taken the express upstairs. I miss them every day. I really do. But I'll tell you what, to me, it is almost selfish and certainly not reasonable for people who know that we all are going to face the same door, that when the time comes, that express elevator is going to open up, and hopefully you're going to head upstairs, and I'll probably be waiting for you when you come. But the bottom line is, why leave that burden to the people you leave behind that you love so much? Why leave the burden of the financial issues? And yes, you can take the attitude, well, when I go to heaven or I pass on, whatever your religious belief structure may be, that, well, I don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to be here. Well, you probably don't legally. I don't know. We're going to talk about that a little later. But to leave that burden and stress on family members, how can you do that? I mean, it's beyond rude. It's just simply unbelievable that you do that. How about the issues about the people who depend on you? It's not just a financial question. It's a question of who's going to take your place to help these, especially these kids that are in high school, that need to move on to college, that are going to find that special someone, get married, and have families of their own. What are you going to do about that? Or what are you going to do about your spouse or your life partner who's been there with you all along? This weekend, I'm celebrating 45 years. 45 years with what was my high school sweetheart, Linda. And we've been together 47 years. I was blessed to find the right person very early in life in high school. A lot of people aren't that lucky. I was lucky and I was blessed. What about her? Even though she'll inherit all the issues of this company and all that it brings with it, but the bottom line is, that's why I built an organization. And I didn't want her to have to worry about the company or worry about these things, because I want her to live a long, happy life. So you got to stop thinking about yourself, and you got to start thinking about other people and the impact that has. Now, some of us, through the work of the Lord or God, whatever religious belief structure you have, may be taken suddenly. It could be an airplane crash. It could be an automobile accident. It could be a lot of different things, or get hit with a disease like pancreatic cancer, that by the time you find out about it, 2 months later, they're putting you in the ground. There are certain things, and we don't know why these things happen, and certainly people that are smarter than me can perhaps give an explanation. You can't really prepare for that other than having a will, which we'll discuss in a minute. But it's kind of hard to plan for something. If you're 32 years old and you're driving to work, or you're driving to a restaurant to get a bite to eat, and all of a sudden somebody crosses that double line, and all you see is lights, then you hear the crash, and then the rest of the process of transferring your spirit upward. So there are a lot of areas to deal with. Now, I don't want the people who are viewing this program to think this is a negative. This definitely is not a program that we have to say, no, if you're 13 years old, you shouldn't watch it. It's something that you've got to do. And if it takes that 13-year-old son or daughter to say, Mom, Dad, what's going to happen if something happens to you guys? And believe me, these kids are smarter all the time. You need to have an answer for that. So what we're going to talk about in this segment, and I think you'll need to review it constantly with family members and maybe see it 2 or 3 times for the message to kick in. We're talking about the issue that if indeed tomorrow was your final day, and you knew that tomorrow was going to be your final day, what are the things you have to fix? And if you own a company like myself, there's 28 people that depend on me in this company. What's going to happen to them if something happens to me? So what I guess I'm trying to say to you is, this area of the final journey covers several major areas. And in those major areas, you need to write a plan. Like I have with my patients, we write life plans together. I sign it, their significant other signs it, if there is a significant other, and then the person that's primarily planned for, they sign it. You need a game plan. It's like preparing to get a driver's license. You just don't whip into the Department of Motor Vehicles and take a test and say, boom, I'm ready to get my license. You don't study to do what I do, and bam, you get a license. It's all work, it's all effort. So in our second segment of this program, we're going to talk about what it takes to develop a life plan for your final journey. And then I'm going to, in the third segment of this show, I'm going to talk about the steps you simply have to take to make that a reality. So our show focus is final journey, and it's your job to do the work. I'm just going to give you some good suggestions. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to this segment of Life's Journeys with Dr. Ralph Smith, and our focus on this particular program is life's final journey. It is very difficult, as I said in the introduction, to be able to plan for these type of things. I mean, who takes pleasure out of planning their final journey? Who takes pleasure of dealing with the fact that we're not going to be here forever? Who takes pleasure in the fact of leaving behind loved ones? Who takes pleasure in the fact of walking away from a lot of debt? Hey, count me in on that. But that's about it. That's about all she wrote as far as final journey. A lot of it is kind of, let's say, tough to talk about, a very emotional thing. But what I'm going to give you is the focus that you need to take in preparing your life journey, life plan. And yes, it is a life plan because it's the final chapter of your life. It's a lot like reading a book and knowing that the book has 25 chapters, and you could possibly go to the last chapter and find out the summation of everything that you read before. And to me, there are people that do that. There are people that I know that'll read a book backwards and read the chapters building back to the introduction. That's not how I roll, but a lot of people do that. But life is the same way. You have many factors in life. You have the birth that you're born. You've got parents, hopefully both parents, who get you through the educational process and deal with puberty and dealing with girlfriends or boyfriends that you meet in high school that you wonder to yourself as you get older, what in the hell am I doing? You deal with the episodes of getting an education, if that's what your decision is, and going through the university or college, or taking a training. There's nothing wrong with those trades. That's what keeps us going. And then when you complete that and you're ready to go out and make money and hopefully pay down some of that debt that you've accumulated, then you're out there looking for your special someone, somebody who could be a life partner for life. And I always say in my marital counseling that I do, that you got to look at that beyond just a life partner. You got to look at it, is this a person that you'd like to have children with and that you can count on to help raise those children so they have the same shot at life that hopefully you had growing up. So there's a lot to choosing that life partner, as I've shared many times in these shows. I met my life partner was a sophomore in high school, and we got married the minute we got out of high school. Today, people look at that and shake their head in disbelief. And then even before I was a doctor, I had a cardinal rule that we were not going to have any children for at least 3 years, and my wife was more than happy to agree to that, until we really made sure everything was right, that we had careers going, she was able to finish her education, and that we could go forward. And we got married April 1st, 1973. A lot of our friends did not come to the wedding. They thought it was an April Fool's joke. It wasn't, although I think sometimes Linda might think it was a joke. But the bottom line is, when we were blessed with our first child, and her name's Sabrina, a beautiful, now older woman, she'll get a hoot out of seeing that. But anyway, she was our first child, born on March 6th, 1976. So boy, you can't get much closer than that for 3 years. And then we were blessed with Kevin, who was born in 1982. And then, of course, what I call Precious, which is Hillary. She was born in 1992. So yes, we spread our children over 3 decades. Is that the right path to take? I don't know. We'll talk about that at another show. But the bottom line is, that's my legacy, and that's Linda's legacy. We together created those children, and oh, are we proud of them, in addition to the 5 grandkids they produced already. But in doing a life's journey, there's certain things you've got to do. One of the things you got to do is get all your family members together. We kind of talked about that in the introduction, that you want to take an active part in that final journey of your life. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're 32 or 72. You should plan this in advance, because if you're fighting a non-curable disease or several like I am, you're not going to be in the mind state to be able to think about all these things and make good conscious decisions. Do it before you get sick, okay? Or do it before you get too old to where your judgment is somewhat jaded. So you go ahead and you do that. Then once that's established, then you take a look at all the criteria you got to meet. Number 1 criteria is the legal criteria. When you talk about attorneys, and I mentioned this before about the specialized attorney, there's another element of attorney that you really need to look at in the aspect of dealing with attorney. Get someone you like and that can react to you and understands your feelings. If you get an attorney that is sitting there bulldogging through the process just to get done, that's the wrong kind of attorney, because that attorney, if they do enough of that work, are well aware after doing it many, many times the criteria you need to meet. So once again, when you get that criteria, they'll put together a list for the will, and then you sit down with your family support group. I'm an advocate in the family support group that you keep it to probably 2, maybe no more than 4 people. Because the more people you get involved with that family support group, the more differences of opinion you're going to have. Then you're going to make a decision, because ultimately it's your decision, and then you're going to end up getting someone upset. So keep the group within 2 to 4, and if you do have a life partner or you're married, make sure that person is an active participant, because your passing will affect them in a lot of ways, certainly in the financial way. So you want to make sure that you do that. All right, another item on the checklist is how your passing is going to be handled with the children. If you're going to be laying in a nursing home, or you're going to be laying in a hospital or whatever, do you really want that to be the final image that impressionable children have? And by impressionable, I mean kids from 2 to 6 maybe? I don't know. It's probably not a good idea. And then also understand that as you have people visit you and as you prepare for this journey, it could be 1 week or it could be 3 years, who knows, is that you make sure you tell each of these children how important they are to you, how important the family members are, how important your spouse or your significant partner is, in a way of saying thank you. And make sure you do that. And then the time you do have, as long as you can medically do it, go out and enjoy yourself. One of the greatest movies I ever saw have seen is the Bucket List. Oh my gosh. I've watched that film so many times, I should have bought it instead of renting it. And of course now I have access with my entertainment center to whatever movie I want to watch. I'm kind of spoiled. But the bottom line is, what a great show. And it wasn't just the adventures that the 2 gentlemen went through. I'm not going to ruin it for you. But it was the items they picked Make your bucket list now and prioritize them. Put an A and a B and a C next to them, with the A's being top priority and so on. Get those things done so that when you rest and you're ready to make that final step, you know you've lived a full life, you've done everything you possibly can. That's really important. Number 4 in this list, and this is really the last item in the list. Make plans to involve, if you own a company like I do, or you've got associations that depend on you, or you're on a committee or something, make sure you make the proper arrangements. To me, owning a company is an honor, even though sometimes it just frustrates the heck out of me when there's not enough money in the bank and I got all those bills I'm facing, let alone the personal bills, and that's why I tend to live debt-free. That's something Linda and I always looked at. But with a business, that's not entirely possible. Make sure that each of those people understand their roles, make sure they're trained in their area of expertise, and make sure they have the necessary chemistry to get it done. I know Sean and I have a disadvantage being based out here in Port Angeles because most of our management team's in Idaho. So I've got to make a decision here pretty quick since Sean is somewhat new to the company. He runs all of our media and all of our Northwest Peninsula media group that we have. That's his job. But either get him to Idaho or get those people from Idaho out here. Because in the event of my passing, or in the event that I can't make decisions or get around as I should, this team needs to be well-trained, well-oiled, and have beliefs in each other so there's not territorial fights or personal bias. And one of the first things I did, I made them owners. My key people in the company, I made them owners. So they have a financial stake in this company going forward. And that's an important thing to do. It's hard to let loose of that kind of ownership, but it's the right thing to do. If you happen to have a bigger company than the one that I'm involved with Alpine Productions, then make sure you set up a hierarchy that will continue in your absence. Because chances are, if you get afflicted with some type of disease, you're going to spend a good amount of time in the hospitals or nursing homes or whatever, and you're not going to be in a position to make good, sound decisions when they've got you medicated like they will. So make sure that you have the right team in place so that in the passing of your life and going to that next level, that those things are taken care of, because chances are your family is counting on the income from that area, and you've got, in my case, 28 people, but in a lot of cases more than that depend on it. And I can't tell you how often I've witnessed companies that failed, went out of business because of the what I call internal fights of control and authority, and they just brought the whole company down. And wouldn't that be horrible to be on that next level of looking down and then seeing something you built, something you supported your family in, something that helped pay for the education of your kids and obviously affected those kids going forward with grandkids. See that fail because you built it all around yourself? To me, that's kind of selfish and very controlling. So that's something you got to do. And then on this checklist, the last and final item is your significant other. One of the hardest parts about passing, and when I went through this, when I had that stroke in 2015, and my mind was running wild, figuring, okay, what's going to happen? Am I going to live? Am I going to die? What's going to happen? I'm going to miss the kids and the grandkids and Linda and all this. And it really caused my heart rate to race tremendously. And then finally, when they put that mask over my head, they kind of put some things in there that made me stop thinking. I wish they could have done the same thing in the MRI tube when they put me in there, which, by the way, I barely fit in. And for those people who know me well, they'll understand that explanation. But the most important thing, even though I listed it, is item 4 on this checklist, is your significant other. You have a moral, financial, but more important, a love relationship with that person. And I don't care whether you've been with them for 45, 47 years, like I had with Linda, or you've just found this person in your life for the last 2 years. It doesn't matter the length of time. But after you've taken care of your business, your kids, you take care of your legal responsibilities with the use of an outstanding attorney, after you've done all that, you've got to take that quiet time. And I love La Push, Washington. If you haven't stayed out at that resort that the tribe has up there, boy, look it up. It's just amazing. But take that trip, go somewhere where nobody can bother you, turn off the dang cell phone, don't bring your laptop, your tablet, all that crap that distracts you. You take that special loved one in your arms, and you say, honey, what is it that you want to do once I move to that next level? Now, if that person has a sense of humor like Linda, she'll say, well, how do you know I'm not going to go first? So you just ignore that. I've done that. I've ignored a lot. over the 47 years. And you say, no, I'm serious. I want this next step of the journey so that we're ready and prepared. And if that stroke had taken me out, I'm not really sure that back in 2015, I was really able to get the things that I needed. What is it that you need from me? What else is there that you'd like to do? And what can I do to make it easier on you? Because she lost her father at a very young age, and she recently lost her mother, who lived in her 90s. And then she's watched me go through it, losing my parents. And I don't think people understand the impact of that. You can read all the books you want. You can say, oh, my eldest son will pick it up, or my oldest daughter will pick it up, and maybe they will. But what is more important than make sure your life partner who is there for you, and I don't care what your orientation is, by the way, I'm talking about your life partner, is there for you. You have that conversation. You most likely won't bring it up again because it's kind of a negative thing perhaps in some people's minds. But leaving that person fully equipped to move forward. So as you go up to that upper level, you can look forward to their arrival and not have that person shaking their finger in your face and say to you all the things you forgot. It's your duty. It's the final chapter of your life. It's your responsibility. And if you don't do that, then you're being indeed selfish. So that's my advice to you. Kind of throwing this out here. And then in the summary, we'll go through the checklist again. And make sure you have a piece of paper and a pen, or find that significant other and those family members, and you can watch the show over and over again. After all, it's free, so you don't have to worry about that. If you have any questions on this subject or anything else, you can do a Google search on Dr. Ralph Smith. That's spelled R-A-L-P-H. And of course, you know how to spell Smith. I share that name with a lot of people. Or better yet, you can go ahead and Google search Ginny Marie Wellness, and make sure you spell Ginny as G-I-N-N-Y. Marie Wellness Centers, and then you'll see that pop up on Google or any of your search vehicles that you use, and you can get information there and click us and get onto our website. And please use that information. We have our phone number and email address all over that site, so if there's anything we do to help you, feel free to give us a call. We're here to serve you. And once again, as I've mentioned before in previous shows, we do all these good deeds and good works. It's not about the money. Yeah, we got to make money and pay bills and pay our staff and things like that. It's about the memory of Ginny Marie Wellness Center. It's all based on Ginny Marie Smith, who was an incredible mother, who passed many years before she should have, but was there for me from the time I was a little boy until I got older, and she'd listen to those talk shows and call me at 12:15 in the morning and yell at me about I should have done this or I should have done that. I miss her. She will always be my best friend, and I look forward to seeing her again. Once again, thank you for tuning into this program. I hope you learn a lot, and stay tuned for the final segment, which gives you the actual walking papers to walk through all this and get the job done. We appreciate the fact you tuned in today. You take care of yourself. Stay tuned for our final segment. Bye-bye. Welcome back from that short break, and we appreciate the fact you've joined us. If you remember in the first segment of the program, we talked about the need and the need to take action. And we spent a lot of time explaining that this process affects a lot more than people that are seniors or the elderly in our community, but it really affects everything you do. And a lot of people feel that by writing a will, no matter what age you may be, that that's not enough to handle it. Well, legally that may be true. But the thing about this, you've got to make your family members a partner in this. And there are a lot more efforts involved in this than simply just making a will. Many people die without a will. And boy, what a mess you create then. And while you're looking down and watching all that going on, there's not a thing you can do to help it. So let's go through a checklist on our life points. And I want you to take out a piece of paper and a pen. Or more importantly, perhaps, if you can replay this show and have your partners involved that are going to carry out someone's life plan for the final journey, whether it be yourself, your others in the room, or someone who has a parent or somebody that you feel is not prepared. So here's your checklist. Number one, you need to have a serious discussion about what the plans are for your final journey, whether it be for yourself or for others. And either yourself or the person you're trying to help, what is it that they want you to do to make their journey as peaceful and hopefully uneventful as possible? It could be a simple matter of whether they're going to have a cremation when they're done and then spread their ashes over one of these beautiful lakes or one of these mountaintops or in the ocean that we have here in Port Angeles. Or It could be an actual funeral. Who do you invite? How do you want the funeral established? What do you want to do as far as where you want to be buried? What kind of box do you want? I kid my kids all the time about the fact that I want a metal box that is tightly screwed down so I don't have any critters coming in there and ants or other insects coming in there and join me. And I want to be buried with my Mariner hat, my Seahawk hat, and a 6-pack of Diet, because I don't want my wife yelling at me about my diabetes, Diet Dr. Pepper, and the biggest grin I have on my face. I used to save my Letterman jacket, but I don't fit in that anymore, unfortunately. Gained a little weight since then. So you want to sit down and talk about the process of preparing for a final plan of what you want. It's also important to talk about the issue of your medical treatment. My wife is very clear on how she wants that to handle, and I don't want to talk about how she's going to handle it because then she gets mad at me when she watches these shows. But the fact is, do you want to be resuscitated? Do you want to take the medical science that's available today in this wonderful world we live in and take it to the max to preserve your life, to give you as much time as humanly possible? Do you want to go to a nursing home and finish your life there? Do you want to go back to your home and line up either caregivers or kids to be able to help? And all these kids, how busy they are, and grandkids are the same way. So to ask someone to do that, you've got to really be careful that they can possibly do that without interrupting their life, because what you don't want is the resentment. You need to have somebody who is your manager, and it could be a significant other, it could be other people that you trust, to help you there, that when you start taking those medicines that make you irritable, or you start realizing the end is near, that will remove you from the situation of being out in the public, so that their last memories is not the scornful, upset, mad grandma or grandpa, and that's what they remember. What you want them to remember is the days you went out to the lake or the ocean or was watching their baseball games, and how important that is to them. Those are the memories you want. That Christmas, Thanksgiving, July 4th family reunions, those are the memories you want them to retain. The other thing that's important, as another item on your checklist, is to really make sure that the people you select will be strong enough to handle this. It goes far beyond having an executor. I just went through this with my father's passing in February of 2017. You have an executor, you have family members who feel like they need this or they want that. But with my sister and I, we're the only ones left. So it wasn't as complicated. But she did most of the heavy lifting on this. And that was good. I resented it at first, but really that was good. That was really good. Because she did spend a lot of time with Dad, and even though I took care of him too, after I suffered my stroke, I had to really pull back from that. And she stepped up and did the things she felt were right. I didn't agree with all of them, but I respected the fact that it was her responsibility to take that leadership role. So that when it came down for Dad's passing, and as he continued to deteriorate, everything was handled for him. Although I can always remember him saying, I have to do everything by myself. Well, okay. He's former military. That's the way he rolls. But the bottom line is, you've got to have that taken care of. And the last thing I'm going to put on this checklist, and it may seem a little bizarre to you, but I want you to be open-minded, because I know some of my ideas may seem like they're out of the box. But I'm a firm believer that whether that casket's sitting there, or the urn is sitting there, and the ashes that are inside that urn before they're delivered to that favorite mountaintop, or the ocean, or the favorite lake, or wherever you're going to take those ashes, that you have a life celebration. And by life celebration, and I'm sorry to get emotional about this, but a life celebration is really a matter of spending time with loved ones and dealing with all the wonderful things that this person that is departed has done. Joke about it, laugh about it, maybe pull out that old film where that person thought they were a great singer and they're a horrible singer. And whatever the case might be, reflecting. Yes, there'll be tears, there'll be sadness, but it's a lasting impression of everything that person contributes. I've already designed what my headstone's going to look at, and I keep telling my kids and my wife I do not want to be a crispy critter. I don't have anything against cremation. I know it's cheaper, but I want to make sure that I'm somewhat preserved as far as you can be. But I always wanted on my headstone to be really simple. Ralph L. Smith, forget the doctor, forget all the other crap, but Ralph L. Smith, my date I was born, the date I died, and say, my legacy is my children, and listing their 3 names. And then at the bottom of that, my soul partner is Linda. And that's the final tribute that I can make, and hopefully my kids will follow through on this, that no matter who comes and visits me, grandkids that I maybe never had a chance to meet because of my passing, or great-grandkids, or someone just wandering around in that graveyard and wants to just looking around at different people's headstones to see that. Because the fact of the matter is, when it's all said and done, I don't care how successful you've been, I don't care how much money you have, it comes down to your legacy. And quite frankly, a legacy is very simple to explain. What have you done for folks, not only family members, but what have you done for folks that left something in the earth that they didn't have before you were born? And your legacy going forward is your children, of carrying the lessons that you've taught them, the values that you've given them, both moral and life values, that they carry that legacy forward and they teach their kids. So that constantly rolls forward. That's your legacy. And that's what you want to leave behind. So whether you believe in heaven or not, I'm not judging you on your spiritual beliefs, but if you do, and you're looking down from up there with all the clouds and the bright white lights, that you can see your legacy being continued in your absence. That is the ultimate compliment. And the only way you're going to get that accomplished is to prepare the plans for your final journey. It's nothing to fear. When you move on, and again, based on your religious beliefs, where you end up, but when you move on, you're done. Your pain is through, diseases are through, no more visa bills to worry about, no more rents to make, no more dealing with kids that get pulled in during a wild party and having to bail them out of jail. All those things disappear. But the important ones are the folks left behind. So you need to put an emphasis on this final journey and the information I've shared with you in this program so that you can make it easier for the people you love and care so much that are left behind, so they can enjoy your passing as much as possible, whether it be that you suffered tremendous pain and now the pain's over, or whatever the reason may be. You've given them the reason to go forward and have pleasant memories of your final journey, which is the final chapter in your life. On behalf of Alpine Productions and the Jenny Marie Wellness Centers, I thank you for tuning into this program. Again, pay attention to the credits at the end. It gets all the information there that you need to contact us. And I want to again thank the people of Jenny Marie Wellness who do this job day in and day out. And of course, my good buddy Sean Bennett, who produces this film. And it's an honor to be involved with this project. And I hope you listen to this and you follow through. And the programs of the future, we're going to be a lot more positive, perhaps, in some people's opinion, and do a lot of fun things about having your better life, because that's what life journeys are all about. Take care of one another, and God bless.